Hi folks, welcome to the Prepared Homestead. This is Travis. Thank you all for stopping by to watch. Well, today's video is going to be one of those boring videos, yes. But it's a good one, I believe, and it's some good information that we need. I understand that it's way more exciting to hear all these apocalyptic stories and everything that's going on in the news about how the world is going to end and we're going to, see markets crash and we're going to see a collapse of the supply chain and a collapse of our civilization. I get it, that's exciting, but at some point we have to step aside from all that hype and actually start really doing something to be prepared. And many of you, hopefully all of you, are continually preparing. You're building up your supplies, you're building your knowledge, your skills, all the things that you need to be doing, right? Well, there's one thing that you really should be doing, and that's building a community of like-minded individuals around you. And it's something that we're trying to do here. That's something that is happening in places all over the United States. And so I want to talk to you about that today and about things that's working for us, the things that hasn't worked, and hopefully you can kind of replicate the same in your area because there's probably not a whole lot of time left to do this kind of thing. So you really need to be working on it, because I hear this all the time. I get emails constantly of people asking, hey, is there anything going on in my area? Have you heard anything? You know of any kind of meetings going on? I'm really wanting to connect with people because it's really critical. So certainly stay tuned for that, even though it's not the fun one, I know. But I'm gonna try to make it fun. I had planned on having visual aid right here, but it's windy, and it's windier than I thought. And my visual aid, if you can see, keeps falling on the ground. So we're gonna have to use our imagination, because what I plan to do was show you my, doctor's handwriting. While we're talking about community, there is a meeting happening this weekend. That's Saturday, November the 14th. It's not one of my meetings, someone else's, but it's in the St. Louis area. So if you're in that kind of St. Louis, Missouri area, this one is in Arnold, Missouri. And they've been having these for a while. They're kind of new, but they've been going on. The person that's coordinating them does occasionally come to the meetings that we have. So I really think it's a good one. I think it's a good one for you to connect with other people. And if you're interested in the details and location, email Amber. Amber's the one that's doing this. And so email her at the email address you should be seeing at the bottom of your screen right now. If you need to pause the video so that you can write the email down, that's fine. But it's this Saturday, November the 13th in Arnold, Missouri. That's South St. Louis for those of you that, don't do so well at geography and maps and all that kind of stuff. We've got a pretty decent thing going on here in the Ozarks when it comes to kind of building that community or networks of communities. And I'm not going to go out on the limb and say that it's perfect and that it's successful, but it is growing, and there's a growing energy, let's call it that. People are really becoming more and more excited about it, instead of what sometimes you see is that it's starting to kind of fizzle out. And I think we're doing things differently, at least from my experience. And then let me just give you a brief history. I've been what people call a prepper before the whole Y2K scare, so it's been over 20 years. In fact, at that time when people were getting terrified of Y2K and stocking up, I was thinking, I'm pretty well stocked up now. I mean, sure, I did some more, but I was already on that path. And since then, I have been involved in numerous different organizations, groups, meetings. I've tried it myself a few times of trying to start like a MAG or a tribe or a crew or, whatever. And I've been involved in people that's done the same thing. And more times than not, it's not really successful. It starts out good, and then it kind of fizzles out. And I'm hearing that all the time. And that seems to be kind of the norm. So how is it that you can get something started and keep it going and keep the momentum building? And that's what I want to talk to you today, because we live in a world, number one, it's necessary. We all know that. I shouldn't have to go into any kind of detail. Like, if you don't realize that, then I don't know why in the world you're even watching this channel. But we also live in a world where people are different. 100 years ago, 200 years ago, kind of that community connection where people really got to know each other and helped each other out and came to each other's aid. That was normal. It's what just people did. Well, now we live very isolated, lives. May live in a big apartment with thousands of other people and not know a single one of them, or not know our next door neighbor other than maybe first name basis so that we can wave when they're out mowing their yard. And a lot of that's because of our society has changed. And so I do believe that a lot of the things that can make a community successful is kind of looking back at those old ways and building them. Unfortunately, what I see and what I have seen in my past is that people are trying to build what's called, or typically called, a mutual assistance group. A lot of times you hear it MAG. Sometimes they go by different names, maybe a tribe or a crew or, various different kind of, platoon or patrol or, some type of military name or whatever. The idea is that it's a small group of people that kind of live close to each other, usually within just a few miles, that get to know each other really well, build that trust, meet on a regular basis for just, dinner, training, helping each other out, helping repair the roof, going to someone else's house and, helping them with their harvest. And then all the while planning for SHTF and knowing to come together in defense of each other's property, helping each other out, bartering, trading. And sometimes these exist on the same property. I think that's probably what a lot of people's goals and dreams are, is to have something like that as a prepper. I mean, there's always those lone wolves that they don't want it. They just don't want it. They don't want it. But the vast majority of people, that's what they want, okay? The problem is that's where we start off trying to create. We start off trying to create that. And what I have found is that really the only times that they're truly successful is when the people that start them out are already kind of that in the beginning. A lot of times they're, maybe military buddies that serve together, or they've worked together at a job, or maybe they've been, officers in law enforcement or something, or firemen, volunteer firemen, whatever it is. They've already kind of, they already know each other. They've already broken the ice. They already kind of have a basis of trust and everything to start off with, so it becomes easier. But when it's outside people that don't know each other, whether they're trying to join something like that or start something like that, and they're strangers, it's just almost impossible, at least to make it successful. And so what I was going to show you on my little marker board was a pyramid or a mountain triangle. And at the top of it, the top of that pyramid, is that mutual assistance group. So imagine, okay? Imagine my beautiful green screen back here. Imagine a pyramid, a mountain, and that little top part, okay? That's where you want to get to. That's that small nucleus group, mutual assistance group. And we're skipping all the steps between that, the top and the bottom, just to get to the top. And that's the problem. We have to build a community, a broader community, a broader group of people, of like-minded individuals. It makes it easier to get to know people. It makes it more comfortable, less intrusive. We're not inviting everyone over to our house where they can see where we live and what we have and what our plans are, and then later on figuring out, oh, I can't trust this person's nuts. And so that's what we're trying to do here in the Ozarks with the meetings that we have. And like I said, I can't promise you it's absolutely successful, but it is exciting to see things happen. Just this past meeting that was this last Sunday, since then, I've been contacted by 3 groups of people that they were able to meet other people at that meeting and find out that they don't live too far from each other, and they're already in communications. This isn't the first time it's happened. This has happened at the last couple of meetings, 2 previous meetings, where people have found out that there's others that live near them, and they're sharing information. They're meeting for coffee, they're meeting at a restaurant, they're meeting at a park, they're emailing each other, and they're working on building a more close-knit little group. And the group as a whole has nothing to do with that. I'm not overseeing that. I don't have any interest in knowing what they're doing. If they need some advice, I'll give it to them. But they're kind of on their own. The only thing we try to do is at least keep track of the general area they're at, maybe a contact person, so that if things do kind of fall apart in this world, we kind of know where a little group of people are at and how to get a hold of them. But that's all really we care about. And so what we're doing is we're building a greater community, that out of that greater community, you can find smaller little groups that can form. And at the meetings that we have, they're not too deep, okay? In fact, the number one reason that we have these meetings is just to network. It's just to get to know each other. Yes, we have little classes or little presentations or something put on by myself and other people in the group, and occasionally we've had people from outside come in and talk. But that's not the main purpose. The main purpose is just to get you there. And I've found that most people that go to some kind of prepper type group or a homesteading group, that's really the main reason that they're going. They're not going so much to hear the speaker. Maybe occasionally if it's a special thing or something that they really want to know. But usually they're just going to meet other people. And so that's what we're providing. We've been fortunate enough to find a very large building that has all the facilities in it that we need, and it's very cheap to rent for the entire day. And people bring food, we provide food, and then others, bring a few dishes here and there to add to it. And the building is open from 11 o'clock, and usually the last person leaves somewhere between 8 and 9 o'clock that night. And in that time period, there's about a 2.5 hour window where we actually come together, sit down, and have little classes. The rest of that time is spent just mingling, just getting to know each other. And I found that really seems to be working. And if you can replicate that in your area, then you might have some success. Now, I know what you're going to say. Yeah, but you have this YouTube channel, and you get on here and you talk about it. And you have thousands of people that watch your YouTube channel. So of course, you're going to be able to reach more people. And you're right. I don't disagree with you. And that's why I've said before, if you start your own meeting, I will promote it just like I did Amber's at the start of this video, several times, as often as I can, depending on when you let me know. And I will encourage people to go to that meeting. You could say, well, they're just coming to the meeting to meet you. There have been a few people that I kind of have the feeling that their only interest is coming there and to meeting me. But out of all the meetings that we've had, and the 200 to 300 average that we have at each meeting, I can probably only think of 3 or 4 people that stood out to me as that type. The rest of them, oh, they might think it's kind of neat to meet me. But in the end, they're really there to just meet other people. And I assure you, these meetings are not about me. As far as I'm concerned, I would love it if every meeting I have a bunch of other people lined up to talk so that I don't even have to get up there and talk. I like to just kind of sit in the background, and that's fine. That's what I'd love. So first, you need to find a place to meet. It doesn't have to be huge, but definitely big enough to house several people. Secondly, and this is another thing that kind of the old prepper mags, I think, do wrong, at least at the start, is they're set up meeting style is this very harsh meeting with just men, and we're going to form our little military style mag group. And it doesn't leave a lot of room for people that are families, husbands and wives, maybe they have kids. It makes it difficult. If only the guy's going to come and he's leaving his wife and kids at home, that's difficult. Or if kids really aren't really that welcome or have a place to do anything, then what are they going to do? They got to find a babysitter or choose not to come. And then, is that really what kind of group you want? Do you really only want just the men? Do you not want to have kids? Do you really not want to have family involved in your community? Of course you don't. You really want the whole family involved. I've heard several times of mag groups that consist of only the men that go to these meetings. And there's 5 or 6 little families, and it's just the guys, and they meet and they talk. And then every once in a while they decide, okay, we're going to bring all of our families together, and they do so, and the kids don't get along, or this wife and this wife don't really like each other. And you want to think, well, if the whole purpose of this mag existing is so that we can help each other out when the doo-doo hits the fan, if we can't get along, then is it really going to be that successful? And so by having something like this where everyone can come, it's extremely family friendly. There's plenty of room inside and outside for the kids to play. Usually moms or older teenagers and stuff kind of help, you know, coordinate of just kind of watching them so the kids aren't running too wild. And there's lots of food, and there's bathrooms, and there's chairs, and there's plenty of room, and everyone comes together and they can enjoy the meeting. Another problem that I see happen too often is that these groups are very closed off, at least in the beginning, and that's kind of a bad thing. They're closed off to anyone that doesn't fit a certain, you know, outline of what they're looking for. They're maybe only looking for someone that's been, you know, special operations in the military. We're only looking for Marine snipers. We're only looking for emergency room physicians. You know, we're only looking for engineers. And if you don't meet these certain qualifications, then, well, you're not part of us. That's probably not going to lead to a successful group, especially if that's what you're doing in the beginning. I know a lot of people don't like the idea of throwing a broad net. And that's not necessarily what we do, but it is kind of what we do. It's open to the public. Anyone can come. I don't publish the locations, so they do have to communicate through me to find out where we're going. And I hope that it's some way that kind of weeds out some. And so far, we've been pretty successful and not too many, you know, crazy people showing up. And one of the things that we do to kind of help correct that is we keep a pretty good control over not allowing or encouraging, you know, really insane radical talk. Most of the guys, especially that come to the group, they all know that. And if they start hearing rumors of that, we try to shut it down pretty quickly. But the idea is allowing everyone to be part of it. And in our meetings, we have elderly people, we have disabled people, we have single moms, we have people that tactically may not seem to be, you know, able to provide a lot. Maybe they're, no offense, a paper pusher for their career. But you know what? We find that everyone that comes there has something to contribute. They have something to add to the community. And so we don't turn them away just because they've never gardened before, or just because they've never actually, you know, pulled the trigger of a gun before, or something like that, or because they're disabled, or because they're just too old. Because we feel that in a real community, that everyone has something to offer. And I think when you look at it that way, and you're not so closed off, it becomes very easy for good people to show up. And that's what we're finding in our meetings. Really good people are showing up. They have a heart for this, and they've you know, they have a deep desire to connect with other people. And they're from all over this part of the state, and they come from other states, you know, trying to come here and learn and replicate it, and maybe take it home and do the same thing where they live. Because they're seeing that starting at the bottom of that mountain, the bottom of that pyramid, triangle, whatever you want to call it, that I can't show you because of the wind, now that it's died down, it creates a good firm foundation. And as you work your way up that, you're getting to know each other, you're breaking the ice, you're able to weed out through standing around in the room having a cup of coffee, and the kids are running around, and you're, you know, eating a cookie, and you're, you know, each week or each month, you're able to figure out if this person has decent character or not. And as they develop that kind of relationship, then you can start saying, hey, you know, why don't we get together? One of the things that I do at the meeting is I pass around a microphone, and anyone that wants to can stand up and state their name and a general area to where they live. Now, I do let them know not to be specific. You can just say the county that you live in, or what side of the county, or whatever. And then afterwards, go to that person, if you live near them, and start a conversation. Start talking with them. Doesn't mean it's going to work, but at least you know that there's someone that lives within probably a decent, you know, short little drive of you. And it's worth talking to them and hoping that you can kind of start something going. Don't be so focused at starting at the very top and creating your little rifle squad or something like that. Work on building a community. Work on building a community. And it's just like a real world community. You know, not everyone in the real world community gets along, but everyone in the real world community ideally is contributing to that community. And so that's what we're doing. And then we're having networks of communities. And this little group is real close-knit, and so is this one over here, but they're not necessarily close-knit to each other. But you know what they do? They can barter with each other. They can come to each other's aid. They can be trade networks and routes and stuff like that. And they can share ideas. I think that's a better way of doing it. And it does seem to be working out for us. And I hope that that's something that you can pass on and replicate in your area. Now, I get it. Time, well, we don't have a whole lot probably. So you may not have years to develop this. You may have to speed it up. I get it. But I think if you work really hard at it, you can do that. Look for a good place to meet at. Come up with at least just an hour and a half agenda of what to talk about. And then set the date and start promoting it. Let me know. I'll get the information out there as much as I can. And there are other places that I can let you know that you can also share that information. And then just keep doing it and stay at it. The very first meeting that we had here was my family and one other family that we were already good friends with. We just sat around talking like normal. And from that very first meeting about a year ago, maybe a little bit more, we now have between 200 and 300 people, or just a little bit over 300 people every month. And we're doing other things, little work groups where we're going to each other's place. Bible study groups, women's groups, homeschool groups are starting to be talking about forming. So there's a lot of stuff going on. Don't give up. Don't think that there's just no one in your area, because I assure you there is. Yeah, some areas are way more off to the left field, and it's going to be harder to find, but there probably is still someone in your area, because I get the emails from people. I get emails from places you can't imagine that there would be any kind of, traditional conservative homesteading prepper kind of person. Places in, California you wouldn't imagine. Places in, Michigan and places in, Seattle and Portland and New York and all these towns that you just can't imagine that there would actually be like-minded folks at, and there are. So don't give up. Start with a community mind and work towards that small, close-knit little group, and you just might find a successful thing. All right, folks, thank you for watching. I'll catch you in the next video.